Hello everybody, I have a card for you today. Wanted to show you how I made it. I don't know where all of you get your inspiration, but of course anywhere works, right? I send out a lot of cards to people and I get a lot of cards in return, which is so precious. But not all of the people I send cards to make cards. So sometimes I get a store-bought card in return, and there's many of them out there that are just absolutely lovely. And I received this card in the mail and it just spoke to me. It's just so precious. And I wanted to see if I could imitate it in some way with current Stampin' Up! Products. So this is my imitation of the card. So it looks a little bit different, but similar in a lot of ways. I would have loved to have had a little mouse that would cling to the stem, but we didn't have one. But we do have a little mouse that's in the Someone Special stamp set. Special Someone, I said that backwards. The Special Someone stamp set. So this little mouse is the guy that we're going to use today. And let me show you how I made this card. So it started out with a base. It's from the Thick Whisper White. It's cut 5 inches by 7 inches, scored at 3.5, which makes a note card sized card. Stampin' Up! Sells the cards and envelopes in the catalog, but I have some extra envelopes, so I'm using them up. So I just made the base. And I started out by stamping the mouse. So let's get him out. He's in 2 pieces. He's got a main piece and then a filler piece. And I stamped him with crumb cake. Him, or could be either. And let me get my blocks. Get those stuck on a block. I stamped this body part first, the one that's the main part of his body. I stamped it with the crumb cake, and I stamped it full strength. Right down here like that. And then I stamped this filler part. Now you could leave him like that. He's very cute. But I'm going to put this piece in. And this one I stamped with crumb cake, but I stamped it off once first. And it's really easy to line them up with this. And there it's filled in a little bit. So there's my little mouse. The next thing I did was the stem, and I did that with an old olive marker. And then I have this little gadget that my husband gave me that I can shape things with, because I don't know about you, but I have a hard time just drawing a line. It just never seems to look quite right. And what's cool about this is it holds the shape, whatever shape you put it in. So I wanted it to look like the little mouse was holding the stem of the flower, or that it was going through his hands. And I'm going to use the brush end. I used on my cards, I used both the brush end on one and let me show you those. This one I used the brush end, and it seemed a little heavy to me. This one I used the thinner end, and I like it a little bit better. So that's the one I'm going to use, is that pen end, not the brush end. And I've got the shape I want, and I know I need to leave some room for that poppy flower up here. So I'm only going to go to right about here. And I'm just going to use this to draw against. So it gives me, and then I can go back and I can fill it in just a little bit if I want to. Make it a little bit stronger and add it. And I want it to look like it went through his hands and down past him, so I'm going to do this. And there's my stem. Next, I stamped the poppy flower, and I used this smaller one that's just an outline. And I stamped it with Calypso Coral. Let's get a block for that. There we go. And full strength, and just right there at the end of the stem. And that's okay. I'm going to leave that out because I'm going to use it some more. And then here's the petal pink. Now I used an aqua painter That's what these are. You can put water in them, and then they have a brush on the end, so they're moistened. And I started with the petal pink to color in the flower. And I almost forgot. This is how I do it. Put some ink on a block, and I'm going to put some Calypso Coral on a block. And then I can just pick up the color so easily. And, you know, don't try to be too perfect. Just brush this color on there and leave some white. Don't worry about leaving some white behind. There's that color. You can always come back and touch it up some more. Now I'm going to pick up some of the Calypso Coral because I want to get that shading that we had in the original card. And it's a little bit different looking flower, so it was a little bit easier to do maybe, but you can just work it in. However you want, just to get the shading that you want. And I like that. I'm going to let it sit just like that. So that's done. Get those out of the way. And then I used soft suede, and I stamped the sentiment from Positive Thoughts, which is Hugs, Prayers, and Love. Came from this stamp set right here. And we need another block. And I just stamped that there. Okay, we're almost done. Let me close that up and get it out of the way. Then I wanted, this card had texture, which was part of the allure of it. And so I decided to emboss this with the Subtles. Reach over here and get it. Subtle Dynamic embossing folder, which is just a really soft embossing. And I only want to emboss the front, of course. And so I'm going to put it in here like this, and I'm going to close it on it. And then when you're embossing with this particular embossing folder, all you need is the base plate. And I'm going to set mine on there like this. And the cover, one cutting plate. And that will run through. So let me do that. Whoops, moved my camera. I'll be back. And we'll put the camera back. Okay, so there it is. It's hard to see the embossing, but it's there. Okay, then I wanted to have a little ribbon coming around similar to what they had on their card. I'm not very good at duplicating that per se, but there it is. And again, I just used the aqua painter. You could have done this. I could have done this before I embossed. Probably should have, but I didn't. So, and you can have your ribbon start and stop wherever you want it to, and just do your best. That's all you can do. I could have used my positioner, but I like it. It came out just fine. Then the final step was to just get those lovely little spots of color that accented around it. To do that, I just stamped some ink onto a clear block, and then I spritzed it with water. Get my card out of the way. Spritzed it so it got nice and juicy. I don't want it to flop open and get spots on the inside, so I'm going to put some removable adhesive right there and pin that down. And then I used just a regular paintbrush and get it all grouped up pretty good with color, and then you just tap it against your finger. And you can put on as much or as little as you want. I want a little bit more up in there. Ah, I like it. Stop there. So there's my card. There's my imitation of the original. I hope you enjoyed your video today. I also wanted to let you know that I have a site on thesearemystamps.com, and if you're interested in a list of the supplies and all of the things used to make the card, you can find that recipe there, and it's a printable recipe.